Before the European clay season began, one of the biggest talking points of this season's tennis was about Carlos Alcaraz's inability to dominate the tour and return to the #1 spot in the absence of Sinner. Alcaraz's response to the criticisms? An impressive title run in Monte Carlo, his first Masters 1000 in 13 months, a return to the top 2 for the first time since November of last year, and a serious warning to the rest of the tour. Carlos's Monte Carlo triumph exposed one thing. And as we go through each one of his matches, I'll be sharing some key takeaways and insights that I have on his game. But also, over the next few weeks, I'm rolling out a huge project, and it's one that could lead me to Roger Federer. Alcaraz came into the tournament with an 0-1 career record at Monte Carlo. For one reason or another, he just never found a way to get a W under his belt up until now, and especially in limited chances. The opening round against Francisco Cerundolo was a nightmare draw to kick things off. Apart from being a very respectable, if not underrated opponent on the surface, Cerundolo was coming into the match with a lot of reps on clay and a 9-3 record on the surface for the season, including a win over Zverev in February. Safe to say, it wasn't going to be easy for Carlitos. After exchanging breaks early on, a confident Cerundolo found a way to play inside the court and dominate the serve-return dynamics. Meanwhile, Alcaraz was spraying errors all over the place, 13 unforced errors, as Cerundolo took the first set in style. My knee-jerk reaction to that first set was that things were going to get ugly for Alcaraz. But as Carlos seemingly always does, he managed to find a way to turn the match on its head. He adjusted his return position in the second set, moving up closer to the baseline, and that set the tone for his defense moving forward. Carlos didn't even back up for the fast incoming balls. Instead, he was taking the ball on the rise, and so early. The adjustment paid off big time as Alcaraz only lost 2 points on the return throughout the second set. The backhand in particular caught fire as Alcaraz played with a lot of intensity, hitting extremely hard from defensive positions and adding a lot more spin on the ball. Cerundolo got bageled in the second and must have been wondering how an opponent could go from 0 to 100 in a split second. But Carlos wasn't done yet, and the momentum carried over to the third set. Alcaraz was controlling the court position, dictating rally patterns, and breaking serve at will, not to mention the flurry of forehand drop shots that came with it. A breadstick in the third set to take care of business, and a first Monte Carlo win for Alcaraz was the end result. But looking deeper at the opener against Cerundolo, it's seemingly been an overarching theme in Carlitos' career where he just has this special ability to go from playing badly to just becoming downright unplayable. But it wasn't just that. There was also this special sense of consistency and calmness from Alcaraz that we haven't always seen, and it made me super excited to watch his next round match against Daniel Altmaier. Alcaraz was up against German qualifier Altmaier in the next round in their first tour-level meeting, and let's just say Carlos didn't come anywhere close to his best on serve. He wasn't making many first serves or winning a lot of points behind his first delivery, and he ended up facing 10 breakpoints throughout the match, half of which came in his very first service game. But on a day when Alcaraz's serve went MIA, his return came to the rescue. And here's the crazy part. The more Altmaier tried to unsettle Alcaraz with a barrage of deep and heavy ground strokes, the more it seemed to inspire Alcaraz to just go and play out of his skin. After grabbing the first set, Alcaraz had to dig deep from love 40 in the opening game of the second set to hold serve. After that, it was poetry in motion, and the backhand caught my eye yet again. I can't say how much of an effect his lowered takeback on the two-hander has on the efficiency of his stroke production, but it seems to work better when Alcaraz plays freely. The match ended in straights for Carlitos, who, I should also mention, found a lot of success at the net. But after seeing Alcaraz's shot making, and especially that tweener that he hit when facing a break point, it just made me realize that the best we get from Alcaraz is always when he's playing whatever he wants, whenever. No other way around. I know, we can all go on the rants that Alcaraz needs to play more consistent, high-percentage tennis, stop running so hot and cold, and actually be able to execute a plan B. But honestly, the more that I've come to watch Carlos, the more obvious it becomes that the best we get from him is when he's playing free and loose on the court. But how is he going to turn up against his biggest test yet? Archer Fils had just taken down Rublev in straight sets to book a ticket to the quarterfinal, becoming the only man this season to reach the quarterfinals at the 3 Masters 1000 tournaments played so far. You know, it's crazy to think that Alcaraz is only a year older than Fils, but it also feels like Carlos has been around for much longer, and it's even more surprising when you realize this was just their first tour-level meeting. Guys, I've been meaning to do a deep dive on Fils because I'm just so impressed with the player that he's become in the past year. But things have been busy over here at Courtside. We're rolling out a brand new series where I'm actually training with some of the best tennis players in the world myself, and I'm super excited to share it all with you. In case you missed it, you can even check out the first video that we just dropped. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. In terms of quality, we saw patches of top-shelf shot-making scattered across the match, but there were also a lot of errors. Fils got off to a flying start in the opening set, seizing 2 early breaks to go up 3-love. Alcaraz eventually steadied the ship though, and clawed his way back into the set, drawing level at 4-all, only for Fils to break again and steal the set after saving another 2 break points. So just like in the Cerundolo match, Alcaraz got himself in an early hole by dropping the first set, except this time around, it didn't get any better in the second. Fils continued to throw the kitchen sink at Alcaraz with some of the heaviest forehands out there. In fact, Fils' average forehand speed was 84 miles per hour compared to Alcaraz's average of 80 miles per hour. In between the baseline slugfests were also the cat and mouse points at the net. By now, the smile on Alcaraz's face was gone, and he looked stressed and overpowered. Meanwhile, Fils was getting all the energy he needed from the French crowd, and was looking to make a statement with a straight sets win. Alcaraz suddenly found himself down love 40 at 5-all, and it looked like he was gonna get cooked, but once again, he flipped the script. How did he do it? Let's analyze each of those critical points. It's love 40. Alcaraz serves out wide to the Fils backhand. Fils gets good contact for a cross-court return, but dumps it in the net. It was the right play, but Fils couldn't execute perfectly. 15-40. On the next point, both players get into a brutal forehand exchange in an extended rally, but Fils misses an inside-out forehand as he tries too hard to force the action. Again, the intention was there, but the Frenchman didn't give himself enough time on that shot. 30-40, 2 break points saved for Alcaraz. On to the next point. With one more break chance, Fils slowly takes control of a long rally, running around to hit forehands and forcing Alcaraz to come up with short hop backhands near the baseline. He has a look at an inside-out forehand again and fires it toward the sideline, but misses by a little bit. Alcaraz breathes a sigh of relief, and we get to deuce. Carlos then forces a forehand error from Fils after dominating a short rally. Advantage Alcaraz. And finally, Carlos pushes Fils out wide with another first serve and follows that up with a sublime drop shot. Alcaraz then breaks Fils in the very next game after flicking a perfect lob over the Frenchman to steal the set at the death. Clutch doesn't get any better than this. Fils would go on to have more chances in the third set after racing to a 3-1 lead, but he couldn't keep the errors down. Again, Alcaraz was able to make the most of his opponent's errors in the key moments thanks to his big stage experience, which in my opinion made all the difference. Alcaraz reeled off 5 games in a row to win the decider. Carlos found more success targeting the Fils backhand in the last 2 sets. But guys, I have to say, a combined 41 winners and 95 errors shared between both players doesn't do any justice to some of the shot making we saw between both players. Now, for Fils, this loss is gonna hurt because he was so close to beating Alcaraz, and who knows how far he could have gone from there. Not to sound too forward, but I'd have picked Fils over Davidovich-Fokina in the semis, and it would have been a coin flip against Musetti in the final. Did Fils just pass up his biggest chance at a Masters 1000? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me say this, Alcaraz is going to have his hands full over the next few years, battling it out with the likes of Fils, Draper, Mensik, Fonseca, and many others, not just Sinner. In the meantime though, Fils is definitely going to have to work on controlling his emotions, especially in the big moments, and also work on that second serve too, to prevent it from being a liability when he needs it. Alcaraz faced 2022 Monte Carlo finalist Alejandro Davidovich-Fokina in the semifinals on Saturday. Davidovich-Fokina has been playing in the form of his life. Being one of the very best shot makers on tour, we know Fokina has always had the talent to cause upsets, and game-wise, he's top 10 material with every shot in the book, except for maybe the serve, which I wouldn't say is elite. But other than that, the Spaniard could be a real joy to watch, and it's great to see him getting the results he's getting this season. No one is more deserving of an ATP title. This time, Alcaraz's forehand was the star of the show. The shot quality and the overall performance was better than in the last 2 matches, and Alcaraz could have even wrapped up the match earlier. But make no mistake, the defense from Davidovich-Fokina was determined, to say the least. After letting 3 set points go in the first set, Alcaraz narrowly edged Davidovich-Fokina in the tiebreak. Alcaraz continued to hit forehand missiles in the second set, using the shot to construct points beautifully. And even though he ultimately needed 6 match points to close out the job, you knew it was never in doubt. a first Monte Carlo final for Alcaraz, but it wasn't going to be easy against a man who had just taken down back-to-back top 10 players, including the defending champion at the tournament. Lorenzo Musetti needed a deciding set in 4 of his 5 matches played coming into the final. And here's how he stacked up against Alcaraz in terms of shot quality for the tournament. Musetti came into the match having lost his last 3 meetings with Alcaraz, never winning more than 3 games in any of the 7 sets since beating Carlitos in Hamburg in 2022. Obviously, beating Alcaraz in a big final was always going to be a tall order, especially since nobody, except for Novak Djokovic, has managed to do it so far. Musetti gave it a good try though. He played with lots of variety and aggression in the first set, while Alcaraz seemed to be a bit erratic. The Musetti forehand was really consistent in the baseline exchanges, and it looked like we were in for a blockbuster final. But as is often the case, Alcaraz found a way to turn the match on its head. He started getting more first serves in and was a lot more controlled in his point construction, particularly with the forehand in the second set. Musetti, on the other hand, was unable to maintain his consistency from the back of the court and was totally outplayed in the second. A leg injury at some point in the third set saw the rest of the match play out in what was honestly a pretty anticlimactic way. You could tell that Musetti was feeling the effect of 17 brutal sets played over 6 days. He needed a medical timeout midway through the third set and hobbled for the rest of the match as Alcaraz coasted to victory in 1 hour and 46 minutes. No doubt the match would have been more competitive if Musetti wasn't physically hampered, but I still think Alcaraz would have won regardless because once he entered another gear in the second set, Musetti was no match. But what were some of the takeaways from the final and Alcaraz's title run? First, we've got to give it to Alcaraz for his ability to make adjustments on the fly on a court he literally had no experience playing on. The adjustments in return position at several key moments against opponents is super underrated in my opinion, plus his variety and all-court game, which is capable of overwhelming any opponent, and also that rare ability to find his best tennis when it matters most, is truly special. I think we tend to see more tactical flexibility and problem solving from Carlos outside of the hard courts. We could also talk about his mentality and the progress he's made so far. More than anything else, Carlos's ability to overcome adversity stood out in his Monte Carlo title run. Each time he found himself behind the 8 ball, a set or a breakdown, he was able to dig deep and claw his way back into the contest. Really, to me, it speaks volumes about his grit and tenacity. I should also totally mention that Alcaraz didn't play close to his best all week, but the level was good enough to win him the title. Now, that's scary because guys, he's only gonna get better from here. Carlos has also spoken about how he no longer thinks about the results because that's only going to put more pressure on him, and instead, he's decided to enjoy himself on the court, and I still think that's only how to get the best from him, at least for now. He's also been more patient with his development, which is a good thing to see because I think we've been a bit too focused on his shortcomings and inconsistency at times. But someone out there might be saying, oh, Alcaraz didn't beat any top 10 player on his way to the title, and he only has 1 top 10 win this year. Of course, those are facts, but I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things. We've got to ask ourselves how many top 10 players can really push Alcaraz on clay. Not many, I suppose. Djokovic can for sure. Sasha Zverev hasn't been close to form, by the way. And we don't know if Jannik will have any rust when he returns to action. Other than that, I don't think that there are many others who could come close. Tsitsipas is 0-6 against Alcaraz and has lost 4 of those matches on clay, 2 at Roland Garros and 2 in Barcelona. Also, it's a terrible matchup for Steph. So, all in all, Alcaraz only having 1 top 10 win this season isn't a problem. In fact, I think we need to remind ourselves of his achievements so far because sometimes we tend to forget. Carlos has now won 10 big titles, including 4 majors before his 22nd birthday. He's lost only 1 match on clay since his Roland Garros title last year, and now he's won 18 ATP titles. Not to mention that he's giving his coach Juan Carlos Ferrero a serious run for his money on clay. Looking at his season so far, I'd say he's in a good place. Plus, he's got literally nothing to defend up until the French, which is going to give him plenty of opportunities to accumulate points in Barcelona, Rome, and Madrid. More than anything, I'm just super excited to see how Alcaraz's continued development and maturity go on to complement his already otherworldly talent. One thing's for sure, it's going to be super exciting for all of us to see. Guys, if you loved this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss a thing here from Courtside Tennis. It's been really cool producing this tennis training series over the past few weeks, and it's been really exciting to get to learn from these current and former pros. I look forward to sharing what they tell me with all of you, and also I'm looking to get on court as much as I can, literally anywhere, so if you're interested in jumping on court with me, fill out the link in the description below and we'll get to it.